The headliner of the day is at high noon, Dan.
Eastern, yeah, it is.
Your Oregon Ducks on the road in the Horseshoe, squaring off against Ohio State. Ohio State is favored by 14. Listen, as we said at the very top, because of the overreactions, week 2 is always the hardest to predict in my book, because you just don't know how much of week 1 you take. You don't know how much of the research from the previews still pertains to the team that you saw in week 1. Both teams in this case obviously have some cleanup to do. The game against Fresno was closer than Oregon would have liked. On the Ohio State side, Ohio State gave up some yards on the ground. They gave up more points than I think they will be comfortable giving up against a better team like an Oregon that's got more firepower.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, we are recording this on a Tuesday morning. What is the status of Kayvon Thibodeaux?
Supposedly going to be updated midweek. So be after we record today, tomorrow, Thursday. From everything I've heard is that, obviously x-rays were negative. I think it's his ankle, a sprained ankle. He's been in a boot, but seems to be feeling pretty good. That's what I've heard. I don't know. Well, everything is, I'm sure it's going to be a game time decision or something like that just for gamesmanship. But, the other important part of that, of the defense and availability, is that Jamal Hill and DJ James, 2 starters in the secondary who missed that Fresno game, will be back from being suspended after an arrest involving pellet guns. So
okay, right.
They'll be back, which should help. I don't know the exact details of why they were suspended, just it was pellet guns and riding around and not doing super legal things. So if they shouldn't be back, that sucks. If they've served a punishment, great. So Oregon's defense will be closer to its ceiling, and it will be at its ceiling if Kayvon Thibodeaux is back and feeling good.
We will update you on Friday as part of the WSV News Radio update show that we do on Fridays. If we get more information, on Thibodeaux. But that being said, I think that's a really important storyline to follow, because if he's out, I'm going Ohio State minus the number. He's just way too important to this defense. I know they had some other guys out, but the defense changed after he went down.
Yeah,
against Fresno. It was a different feel to it. And one of the other things that I thought of was on the Ohio State side, do they have that one guy? Do they have that one guy in the same way that Thibodeaux would affect the defense for Oregon? Like if Chris Olave goes down, or Garrett Wilson, or
on either side of the ball?
Stroud.
Right.
Yeah, just anyway. Is there any one player for Ohio State that if that guy goes down, it's going to change how I feel? It's going to swing my opinion in favor of Oregon? And I think the answer is no, because they have too many dudes.
Well, I think if CJ Stroud goes down, Ohio State's in a bit of a bind, but yeah.
They're in a bit of a bind, but they could almost like run the Wildcat and still win. They're so talented that I feel, because of that, very confident Ohio State's going to win this game. For me, the real issue is the point spread, which we'll discuss more in detail, I'm sure. But I'm very confident that Ohio State's going to come out of this game and win.
Okay. I don't think that's a wrong take. Going into week 1 overall, but also with this game, it's basically finding the not as, right? Is Oregon not as plain on offense as they appeared to be last week? Is Anthony Brown not as inconsistent and skittish in running the show that he showed, especially in that first half and stretches of that second half, which is, there are only 2 halves? Is Ohio State not as able to be pushed around on the ground as they seem to be with Mo Ibrahim and Minnesota? Are they not as questionable in the secondary as they looked at times last year against some of the better teams they played, and against some of the not so great teams that they played, right? So there's that not as element, and there was the weird personnel situation, guys playing that weren't necessarily starters large stretches of the first half against Minnesota. So there's a lot of not as in this game. To me, I've been asked this question anytime I've gone on the radio all off season long, basically like, how does Oregon beat Ohio State? What is the formula for how Oregon is constituted and how do they win? Because Ohio State's clearly the visual better team. Like they're the obvious better team right now. And if we look at recent history, it's having dudes in the pass game, combination quarterback, offensive line, wide receiver, who can hit bigger electric plays and really stress them out, or on the other side of the ball, really limit Ohio State through the air like Northwestern was able to do and really frustrate Justin Fields in the Big Ten championship game. Now, what Alabama does is different. Alabama's a different animal, whatever. They can do anything they want. But in terms of the mortals, the mere mortals, like Indiana and Northwestern and teams like that, I think Oregon has elements of that, but I don't think it's together. I don't think it's fully baked. Whatever Oregon is going to be at its best this year, I don't think it's ready to happen against Ohio State. That said, Mario Cristobal Oregon teams come to play in these big games against these big opponents. They don't always win. They came to play against Auburn a couple of years ago, lost close. USC, they've beaten these past couple seasons, right, in these bigger matchups. Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. So didn't happen against Iowa State last year, but by and large, these Oregon teams are ready for big moments. I think we're going to see a much more creative Oregon offense. I think they were saving wrinkles, and they're intentionally vanilla, which almost cost them against Fresno State. But I like the points here. I'm going to take the points. But I don't think Oregon has the juice to win this game. I just don't think they do. So I think they could lose by 9 or 10. I think, if I had to guess, I think it's going to be something like 34-24.
I think that's a fair take, Dan. I also went back and was looking through what Joe Moorhead did in 2016 and 2017. At the time, he was with Penn State, and he had Trace McSorley and
different
Barkley.
defenses for Ohio State, different coordinators, but yeah.
Very different, but that was sort of a masterclass in how you call offense. He was so good as a play caller in those games. Now, the difference is obviously that offense ran through Trace McSorley, and Anthony Brown is not Trace McSorley. He's just not.
And they had the most physically dominant running back of the modern era. Continue, yes.
So it's not a perfect analog, but I remember going into those games, one of the talking points was that the Ohio State defense was going to overmatch Penn State's offense. And Penn State, with a couple key players, did a really good job of keeping that game close. They won one, lost one in those 2 years. Can Joe Moorhead call another masterclass here? Perhaps. What scares me, though, is the Anthony Brown thing. I just don't know how much you can trust him. I don't. I look at the over-under. I see 63.5. That teeters on the brink of a shootout. Generally, if I'm looking at a game where I'm getting 14.5 points on either side and it looks like it could be a shootout, I'm going to take the points.
Right.
99% of the time, I'm going to take the points. I just don't know if I can trust Anthony Brown to go mano a mano. And that's my hesitation here.
You don't know? I think it sounds like you know.
Well, I'm trying to give him benefit of the doubt. Okay. Yeah. I think the answer is no.
Okay.
I think the answer is no. Because it takes two to tango, and in order for Oregon to go mano a mano and stay in this game if it's a shootout, he's making plays with his arms, he's making plays with his legs, maybe both arms, I don't know, avoiding the big turnover.
Sure.
And I'm just not there yet. So I'm going to go Ohio State 41-24 in this game. I think it's a situation where they pull away late.
Okay.
I think it's a situation where they pull away late. Maybe there's a big play in the fourth quarter, and that springs them loose. I'm also, for what it's worth, not completely sold on CJ Stroud, because he came out last week and he was juiced up, man. He was missing throws too. So this is
look at his final stat line in a subpar effort early on.
That was ridiculous.
It's quintessential win your clunkers in terms of person. He eventually found open dudes and got into a rhythm. And even though it was an uneven performance, nice uneven performance to have.
I think in summary, what I'm saying is I like Ohio State minus the number because they're at home, because they have a better team across the board. They have more playmakers. And because I just don't trust Anthony Brown.
Yeah, I don't have, I'm turning on a light behind me. I don't have a specific ability to rebut any of those points. I think they're all completely reasonable.
So we disagree, sort of.
Kind of. Hey, thanks for watching. Consider, if you haven't, subscribing to the channel and hitting that little bell to be alerted, and listening to the podcast at solidverbal.com.